we'll get these handed out real quick. Go ahead.
Good, thank you.
So while they're handing those out, these are a packet of exhibits. Looks like they're labeled Schnakenberg.
Yeah, there are.
Hearing exhibits 1 through 8B.
This section is just section 6. There's a cluster of them here. The ones in the back, the two in the middle aren't that important. Okay? This is the aerial photo of this farm.
Okay.
And this is high ground. Let me get your little thing here.
Hold on real quick here. Mr. Schnakenberg, just hold on 1 second here. So I'm just getting to the right one here.
6.
6, okay. All right. So are you asking to admit all of your exhibits?
Yes.
All right. Are there objections? Well, let's give the parties just a minute. They may want some clarification.
Your Honor, someone will object to hearing Exhibit 8 as well as 8A and 8B for lack of foundation.
8A, and 8B. So I know we're jumping out of order here just a little bit, Mr. Schnakenberg.
That's not this.
Mr. Schnakenberg, we'll get you through it. You're doing great. So we're just admitting all of them now, or talking about admitting all of them now. So they're objecting to Exhibit 8. I know we're not talking about that one yet, but just, can you just give us a very brief description of 8 and then 8A and 8B?
Okay. Exhibit 8 is background information on Exhibit 8A and 8B to describe what's in 8. What's in 8A and 8B.
Okay.
That's necessary information to understand the background of the next 2 exhibits. The next 2 exhibits are what's important.
Okay.
This is background information.
So
Just for your files.
So Exhibit 8 is the Iowa Geological Survey, and 8A and 8B support that.
Yes.
Okay. The objection is noted. The board will...
Excuse me, sir. Let's put that in reverse. 8 supports 8A and 8B, which are my visual supporting information
Okay.
on the previous farm.
All right. The board,
Okay.
the board will admit
We clear?
and give the weight due. Mr. Schnakenberg?
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about them right now.
Okay.
You're doing great. All right. Back to where we were.
So we'll put this to the side for now.
You got it.
That's support information.
You got it. All right. So I believe you were talking about Exhibit 6.
Okay, yes. This is the Exhibit 6 farm as it looks from the air. And I've done considerable work on this. Let me get this pointer working right. I don't even see it. You see it anywhere?
Not yet. Chuck might be there in just a minute to help you. Right on cue.
This one. Okay.
Right, so just remember, when you're pointing, describe what you're pointing to so that later, when we're using the record, we can find what you were talking about.
Okay. This is the farm. This is high ground. It's in CRP. I put grass waterways in, and this was an existing waterway, and I put a drainage ditch in along this side. This is a waterway when I was bequeathed it from my uncle. This is one that I added. Okay? This is wetland, and right south of that is fish and wildlife land.
Okay, so just to clarify there.
This is just position.
Right, so the northwest corner is the high ground. The shaded area, or the lighter area that's got on either side of it some blue streaks or some other colored streaks are the waterways, and on the far east is a drainage ditch, and then at the bottom southeast corner
Wetlands.
is a wetland. Perfect.
Okay, so that south darker area is corn and soybeans. The next two pages aren't that important. They're just old tile maps, because that used to be on the south end of horse pasture. Now, this is the best picture I could get on tiling that I did in 2014. Due to cyber hacking, I don't own a computer. Okay, now.
So that's the looks like maybe some aerial or satellite imagery that says permanent
of the
wetland
first
at the bottom.
picture.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go down. Just let me run that down. Okay. So here's our wetland. If you can see those blue lines, that's brand new tile as of 2015. This is some of the lowest ground around because fish and wildlife land is right here. So, having said that, I believe between the aerials is the proposed pipeline. There isn't much fall here, so maybe the tile's 3 to 4 feet deep. It has to be really shallow on the east side, and then it doesn't drain good. Okay? So, this helps a great deal, and there are two mains on the south side, one 10-inch and one 8-inch. And I'm not sure how this proposed pipeline will hit those two mains on the bottom, but there's no way you can fix that tile. I mean, you've heard this over and over again. You can't fix it. The fall is so shallow. There's no way of fixing it. You know, some can say they can do this. No, you're not going to fix it. It's not going to drain. And that entire, let me get there. This entire area will go back to horse pasture. My uncle used to raise thoroughbreds. I mean, it's like, it ruins the farm. Basically, you got a $1.6 million farm becomes an $800,000 farm as soon as you cut those tile lines. You can't fix them. The ground's too low. So, reverting back to the first one, the area of a photo on 6. That one. In essence, that entire southern part of that. This was taken the year we had 50 inches of rain. Where my light at here? And you can see it washed out into the permanent wetlands. Okay.
That's the waterway that's in the middle, from the middle of the west boundary that extends
No,
south.
that's not a water. That's the washout. Okay,
But
so
earlier,
if you,
earlier we referred to it, I'm just clarifying for the record, earlier we referred to that as a waterway. In this case, under extreme rain, it became a washout into
yeah,
the
this
wetland.
is water.
Okay,
Okay, you crush the tile, you can't fix it. This is what it's going to look like. And the southern part of the farm is going to be highly unproductive. You know, turn it back into a pasture. That's it. You wreck the farm that I can farm. The higher ground, after I get it out of CRP, at least we'll have some topsoil that can be worked with. And that's basically the end of that farm there that I can describe. And could I go back to Exhibit 1? Okay, Exhibit 1, you've got, let's see. Where am I? Okay, this is my daughter's land. This is my son's land.
the two dark red parcels
Yep,
that are contiguous
That's it.
on the left, and then the other dark red parcel in the middle is your son's land.
yeah, and, okay. All right, let's get to Exhibit 5, which is the same farm. Did you find Exhibit 5? Yeah. Okay. In the yellowish is the Summit Pipeline proposal. South of that, okay. I'm not seeing my mark. Okay. This is Fish and Wildlife land. This is Kossuth County Conservation land. Eagle's Nest right here. And we have more Fish and Wildlife land here. Now, if this is good for the public good, why not put the pipeline there? All they have to do is request it from the U.S. government and from Kossuth County Conservation. Done deal.
Okay.
Okay, you and I know I just posed that question as part of my proposal. That's all. And
So is that your proposed alternate route?
yeah, that's what I would propose.
Okay.
When you would ask a question, is there an alternate route? Yeah, put it on public land.
Okay.
That's all that is. Okay. Now we have to go. Okay, let's see. We've already covered this and this, so everybody knows the positions of the real estate in relation to one another and relation to government land. Is that okay?
So Mr. Schnakenberg, we'll let them sort it out as it relates to their questions as they go forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next farm is we have to get.
I don't want to throw you off. I have some other questions about Mark's farm.
Yes.
Is that okay to answer
Yes.
those now, or do you want
Yes.
to? Okay. So, can we pull that KMZ back up, please? Okay. Okay. So that middle section there, where there are some trees, is that timber forest? Can you give us an idea what
That's
that is?
like a small grove
Okay.
and a corn crib.
Oh, there is corn crib in there.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not used.
Okay. We talked extensively about tile. Are there any other underground installations, such as water lines, gas lines, telecommunications?
No.
Okay. No
Some
other
ancient tile,
any other third-party easements?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. We talked about the streams and the body of water. Yeah. Okay. So from the corn crib down to what appears to be a driveway onto the gravel road.
Yeah. That's the driveway to the lane.
is that used to, is that used by vehicles or heavy
Yes.
equipment?
Yes,
For
but
fun?
it's not, no, more light stuff like pickups,
Okay,
four-wheelers, tractors.
okay. And I apologize if I'm being redundant here. Is there a gradient or a topography? I see Mr. Jorde and Mr. Taylor pointing out that I'm being redundant, so I appreciate
Okay.
that. Is there some gradients here that are a little bit difficult for us to see? I know you said it's
No,
high
it's
in the
pretty
northwest.
much
Okay,
like your tabletop.
all right, perfect. All right, we can head over to Heidi's farm.
Okay, that is Exhibit 7. Can you put this up, please? Okay, this is also another one of those maps, and I'm still having trouble running a pointer. Okay, because of the geology that I'm going to explain, this is the proposed pipeline, and because of the geology, there's constantly moving rock deposits every year. Like my new tenant told me, he says he grows rocks every year. And when I farmed it myself, it was difficult. Okay, see that right there? This X, and I wrote a letter to the governor on this. There was something a few years back, a rock came to the surface that was like 2/3 the size of a Volkswagen. I had to get Redding's gravel and excavation to come and pull it out. And if you take some pictures of this farm, you'll see huge rock piles about here and in this corner down here. They've been collected over the years. This is always going to happen. These huge rocks are always going to move. Sometimes they'll be the size of a basketball, or the size of a cooler you take to a picnic, or the size of one of those igloo things that football players dump over the coat. That's the size of rocks that always come up consistently. You can count on it. Now, we don't know, just like a volcano erupting, when they're going to come up. But every year, there are rocks. Every single year. Now, if you could put up the last glaciation, this one, the last glaciation. Okay, let's go to the one back. No, that's tipped to the side. This one, could you tip that up right hand? There you go. Okay, so your agronomy lesson is this glacier came down here, pushed a pile of rocks, the Capitol building sits on. There was another one that came down here, and then there was another one that came down here, and there's my daughter's farm, constantly pushing out rocks. You could never put a pipeline on that farm. It's too dangerous. Plus, we found out there's what they call a Sexton fault, which would show up on one of these maps like this. Sexton, it's part of the New Madrid fault. I don't know much about it, but where's the camera at? Just for explanatory purposes, so you remember the danger of this. Where's my camera at? Over there?
What kind of?
The one that's looking at me.
You're fine. It's looking at you.
Okay. All right. This glaciation, here's the earth. The glaciation came down like this, left a ridge of rocks, moved forward again, left another ridge of rocks, And the last time it came down here, and you can't hardly see it, what the glacier did. Can we get this picture up?
Wait.
This one. Okay, it's hard to see, but this, okay, this is the direction of the rocks. They always push up every year, and because there's a mile of ice on top of this geological force is always going to come up. This geological force from the last glacier is always going to go to the south, and as a curve here, you are going to consistently push rocks up, which makes the location of this pipeline exceedingly dangerous. And that's all I think I have to share right now, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so when it relates to Heidi's farm, can we pull that Kanzi up, please? Okay, there we go. So, same series of questions on Heidi's farm, and I appreciate the geological background on that, but in other terms, there doesn't appear to be any buildings or structures on
No,
this parcel?
no.
Okay.
Some grass waterways I put in.
Any other underground installations, utilities?
No, sir.
Okay. And any third-party easements?
No, sir.
All right. Streams or bodies of water?
No.
Okay. And no timber or forest on this one?
No.
Even in the southwest corner there, is that just a...
No, there's a couple of trees. That's where some of the huge rocks I took to stop water flow.
Right.
There's a couple of trees grew there.
Thank you. Okay. And so other than the geological history of this piece, is there any other condition that might not be readily available from this map?
No.
Okay. So I think, and as it relates to both properties, if you want to go ahead and describe any concerns you may have about the proposed route and proposed easement and any accommodations that might be made in relation to that if a permit were to be granted.
This farm,
So
that would never pass any form of safety regulations, the pile of rocks.
you're talking about the eastern half of Heidi's farm.
Yes.
All right.
That area would never pass any conditions of safety, none. That will blow a pipeline.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
Okay.
I told Governor Reynolds that.
Okay. I don't have any other questions at this time. The board may come back and ask some questions, so we will turn you over to the parties now and see what questions they may have. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Mr. Schnakenberg, let's stay on Heidi's property for now, okay?
Okay.
There are, looks like maybe 3 green strips.
Those are grass waterways.
Okay, that was my next question. So those are for a
Yeah,
conservation.
because it's hilly. There's the tops of the hills. We always grow rocks every year.
Is it highly erodible land?
Pardon?
Is it highly erodible land? You know what I mean by that?
That's why I got the grass waterways in there.
Okay. Well,
Because it'll gully if I don't. There is steep slope right here where the rocks pop out. Most of them. And the rest is mild slope.
do you think the pipeline would have any impact on the erosion on your land?
Because that's put pretty much on the high. It's depends on how bad they pack the ground. You know, they turn it into concrete, there's going to be a lot of washing.
Yeah. So, do you have a concern about the compaction on your land if the pipeline is constructed?
Yeah, I do.
Can you explain that a little more?
Because this is glacial till. I mean, it had a mile of ice on it, they say, 10,000. So it's small particle size. So when they drive across that, and they make it as hard as the floor here. We don't know how long the pushing of the earth up is going to get that land in a good condition again. I'm not concerned about tile on where they propose that on this farm. It's just terrible packing, you know. And with the rock situation, you know, putting a tile in there is going to kill people. It's going to break. The farm to the north, if the wind's from the south, they're going to die. The two farms to the south, carbon dioxide goes to the lowest level. So, those two farms to the south, they're going to die before anybody gets there. You know, and over on Mark's farm, that's some of the lowest ground around. You know, any leakage there, you know, it's like it's going to stay there. It's going to kill the birds and the skunks and things like that. And perhaps the eagles that nest there. I don't know.
Okay, we'll talk about Mark's farm in a minute, okay?
Okay.
Just to keep things straight here. It looks like there's some buildings just north of Heidi's. Is that a residence or?
Yes. Torligers live there. When the tile, okay, I'm going to talk as if the pipeline's already there. Okay, when the pipeline breaks and there's a south wind, they die immediately. I mean, there's no saving them. You're on the crest there of where the land goes to higher ground. You know, right south of this, and look to they built all kinds of windmills because that's where the wind is the strongest, is why they have windmills there. No, they're just dead.
I think you said that you had seen rocks come up in that area. What was it that caused those rocks to come up? What were you doing, or what was somebody doing?
Nobody was doing anything.
It was just natural.
Geologically, if you have a copy of this, the rocks go like this every year. They come up, you grow rocks. It has nothing to do with any farming practices. Geologically, this always pushes rocks up.
Okay.
Every year.
So
you just don't know what size they're going to be.
It's just a natural phenomenon then?
Yes, according to glaciation.
Okay. So, do you know if Summit did any kind of geohazard study or survey?
No, obviously, in my opinion, sir, in my opinion, obviously not, or they never would have tried to put a pipeline there. Obviously not. They took the glaciation into no consideration whatsoever.
Okay. Did you?
Because this is like manslaughter or second-degree murder to put a pipeline there.
Did you talk to any Summit land agents or representatives about this concern on your land?
No.
Why not?
I didn't have anything to say to them that would be positive. This is visceral. I'm exceedingly hostile. I was genuinely as I could be to get them off the farm. Anything they sent me or little cards they put in the door, I sent them to my lawyer. I'm not going to talk to these people. They're not going to do this to my land. I'm not going to put up with it.
Okay. So let's go to Mark's farm. If we can put that up on the screen.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned there are waterways there. Do you have any concern about what would happen to those waterways if the pipeline is put in?
No, I don't, because the proposal goes right through that corner that's national wetland.
Yeah.
And the rest, it's just a matter of crushing tile that can't be fixed. The slope's too low. What do I got? From the wetlands to where it drains out in that southwest corner, 3 maybe inches of fall, perhaps 4. The tile is like, it's the lowest, close to the, that's probably like 3 feet deep to 4 feet deep. I had to put 2 mains across the south end, one a 10-inch and one an 8-inch. It won't drain. You don't have enough clearance. Just like trying to drive your pickup in a garage door that isn't high enough. It's the same thing, same principle. You can't fix it.
So on Mark's farm, you're concerned that the tile cannot be fixed?
Yes.
Why can't they just come in and put in new tile where it's broken?
From what I understand, this is the pipeline. The easement says it's 50 feet up into the air, 50 feet below, 50 feet either side, and they're not going to let me fix the tile. They have to fix the tile.
Right. So what if they say they're going to fix it?
I don't trust them. You can't, like Van D said, you can't match it up. You have to put in new tile. You can't match it up. It won't fit. And the reason farmers have gone to plastic tile is to flex with the earth as it moves every year. That's why we went against clay tile and concrete tile. Well, a steel pipeline is a lot stronger, but the same system occurs. There's going to be hairline fractures. We're talking 500 miles of high-pressure poison going from like Fort Dodge to God knows where in North Dakota. The pipeline's going to break. It's just physics. And it's going to start with hairline fractures, if not the rock pile on Heidi's farm.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Who's first? Ms. Ryan, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Schnakenberg.
Ms. Ryan?
When you first took the stand, you had a number of exhibits here, and I'm not sure that you actually talked about all of them.
No,
as you
I
were
didn't.
talking with board
They
member
were
Helen.
like, the lawyer said here, material supportive information, not directly related to the ground. Okay? And that's what I believe we approached, what was directly related to the ground.
Could you describe the other exhibits that you hadn't talked about yet, and tell us why you included them, why you thought the board should know about them?
Okay, Exhibit 3, the letter I wrote to the governor. So she knows.
Mr. Schnakenberg, just
Okay.
make sure you're talking to the
Okay.
mic. Go ahead. You can turn it around so that you can see Ms. Ryan
Okay.
easier. There you go.
So the governor knows all about Heidi's farm. Who knows? 5 years, 50 years, that pipeline's going to break. And in the whole stretch, I don't know the geology of South Dakota stuff or whatever, but what I know of the Iowa geology, Heidi's Farm is the best first place the pipeline would break, or at least bend and cause a plume, and Lord knows what would happen after that. You know, it's gonna kill the neighbors. That's all I could say. Okay? Then the number 4 is my objection, which goes along with what I handwritten to the Iowa Utilities Board. And let me get back so I can't find number 1.
We can pull that up for you.
Do you know what number 1 is?
This is what we have up on the board. This is what we.
Okay. Yeah. All that is, these were supporting documents. Okay, that's all that is. And you see Sexton right up on Mark's line. That's where there's a fault. You know, kind of like a San Andreas fault, but it's just a little fault. And it's part of the New Madrid fault. That's all that's there. Obviously, nobody consulted that when they proposed the pipeline. Thank you for listening. Is there anything more?
How about exhibit? Well, I'm not sure which part of the exhibit this is. You've included, this is part of exhibit 4, what looks like the form that you sent to the utilities board?
Yeah. That's what I told them. And I didn't get a response as far as my docket time here at the end of last month. So my lawyer called the IUB people to set up my appointment for this docket.
Do you feel like you didn't have enough time to prepare?
No. If I had more time to prepare, I would have made easier to read. You know, I just went to the gravel and excavating Tyler and had him print this off. I would have done a better job of the geological formations, how this developed, and what's still continuing. The rest of it, it's fine.
Thanks, that's all my questions.
Okay.
Mr. Jorde?
Thank you. Sir, exhibit number 8, got it in front of you there. It's this.
Oh, that's just a Iowa Geological Survey that was published out of Iowa City. That's just supportive information that describes the lay of the land, how it's formed, the moving forces, how the glacier moved from north to south, and how the rocks move up. I think that came out of a book.
Is this a University of Iowa document, or do you know the
I don't know, what does it say on the bottom?
Well, I can't, it might have gotten cut off in your photocopying, but it looks like in the top left, it's kind of suggested by the logo, the font there, that it might be University of Iowa. Do you know if that's where you got this from?
Okay, what I have down in the bottom is Iowa Geological Survey, 300 Toll Bridge Hall, Iowa City, Iowa, 52242, and then 393351575, and then the code of 2023, the University of Iowa. Do you see that on this sheet at the back?
I see that on the back. So this is an official publication, a publication issued by public authority, the University of Iowa?
Yes.
All right, very good. Now, if we can go back to the KMZ file, please, for Heidi's Farm. And then if we can, zoom in. And sir, you talked a little bit about the property immediately north. Could we get a distance, please, from what appears to be the home there?
Yeah, Twillingers live there.
Does that say 309 feet? Looks like. I can't tell. Is that what you see?
I don't see anything.
Okay. I'm getting confirmation that it's approximately 309 feet from the southern portion of that home to
Yes.
the proposed pipeline. Does that concern you? That proximity, 309 feet?
I don't want to be a participant in their death in any way. We have strong south winds. That pipeline cracks, they're dead.
And I take it Summit hasn't, in order to help you evaluate this project, hasn't provided you any plume modeling or dispersion modeling or risk hazard analysis?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to blame them.
Because it's so dangerous, you wouldn't want anyone to know either?
I wouldn't want to. I'm pretty belligerent and hostile. You know, this is
I
visceral.
believe that.
Let me explain this to you. This farm, that happens every year with those rocks.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't know that, why should I talk to them?
So your perspective is there's so many obvious reasons why your land is in an inappropriate location that you just feel like you shouldn't even have to talk to them.
No. You know, if nothing else, they put a pipeline in there, that's manslaughter. Because they know and they saw what you and I have just talked about right here today, Tuesday afternoon, September 26, 2023. They know what this pipeline would do.
Did they contact you to do surveys on Hydro Farm?
No.
Do you know if they surreptitiously did surveys without your knowledge?
Yes, they did.
But they haven't shared any results with you, have they?
No, my lawyer had showed me the results of where they had surveyed. I don't know where he got that information.
But to be clear, following up on Mr. Taylor's question, you haven't seen any geohazard survey analysis from them?
Never.
Okay. And I don't suppose you're aware if they have even performed that level of survey yet on the ground, have they?
I would like to speak in a manner that socially would not be proper. In my observation, as I see it, well, you'd be daft to put a pipeline there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is outrageously not okay.
Has Summit in any of materials or correspondence or attempts to correspond with you explained why they believe that was an appropriate location?
No. Sir, may I add, I don't think they know either.
Could we take a look at Mark's farm, please? And while we're looking at Mark's farm, was this the farm where you said you had raised thoroughbreds?
My uncle did.
Your uncle did?
Yeah.
Okay. All
You
right.
want some additional information?
Well, if it's relevant to the pipeline. Well, let me.
It's relevant to Terry Branstad, but we'll leave that out of that because he'd file an objection. You know, so let's just put that aside.
Well, have you received any letters from Mr. Branstad on this?
Yes, I did. I threw it in the trash. He was a friend of my uncle's. As they're trying to get parimutuel betting going in Iowa, I think he was on this farm looking at my uncle's horses. And then I get this Summit letter in the mail. Yeah, look, I threw it away. And he used to even ask my sister out on a date in high school. So I'm trying to let you know, a motion that hasn't anything to do with your job. So thank you for being there and listening. That's my motion.
If we could just move a little bit west on this, what type of structure is that? Some hog barns?
Oh, yeah, I used to own this. There's my pointer. I used to have ownership's rights to this. And
And let me just stop you. When you say this, just use north, south, east, west so we know what we're talking about.
okay, this is east, this is north, this is west. Okay, I own this. I used to have ownerships of this farm. I sold it to Don Teets, and they built a hog site there. There is a 5,880 foot long tile that I put in, sometimes 12 feet deep. You know, this is low ground, what we don't know. And that's why I hope we suspend these hearings. What we don't know is if we have a leak here in this wetlands, you know, carbon dioxide reacted with water is carbonic acid. We don't know anything about carbonic acid. How come nobody brought that up? And that would go down here, down the river. On Heidi's farm, Des Moines River, when that explodes, well, that's going to float into the Des Moines River because it goes to the lowest ground. So you get carbonic acid in the Des Moines River, which we don't know anything about, concentrations or whatever. You know, what's Governor Reynolds going to do if she's sitting in the Capitol building looking out the window watching the dead fish float by on Des Moines River?
So in terms of these hog barns there, could we get a distance, please, from the pipeline to the northernmost?
I can't do that. You'd have to. But same thing again. If the wind is right, the pigs are dead, period.
So it looks like an estimate of about 327 feet.
Yeah.
So would you have the same concerns for livestock
Oh, yeah. A lot of the wind comes from the northwest. The wind's blowing from the northwest that day. The pigs are dead.
Now, has Summit and any materials told you that they can't go through federal wetlands? Or
No.
Okay. How many hours do you believe you have spent and time spent learning about, being involved, coming here today?
Going to things like Charles City and the Summit thing they put on, legal lawyers' times, I suppose. I'm just guessing, 100 hours in the last two and a half years, 50 hours of legal fees. You have two lawyers. One of the younger one has done the most energy on this, helped me put this together.
And has Summit offered to compensate you for any of your economic losses during that time?
Of course not. Why should they?
Would you, well, do you think they should for putting you through this?
Let's wait and see what happens. I know on their proposal they want to give me 1 penny for every $1 billion of pure profit. 1 penny. So 150 hours of Henry time and lawyer time appears pretty insignificant. But you're right.
Would you purchase a property if it had a carbon dioxide pipeline on it?
Absolutely not. I don't know who would buy this farm. My son would just be stuck with it.
You're concerned that there may be little to no resale value if it's located on your property?
Well, deeper than that, as a life estate holder, I have a fiduciary duty at my death to get this land to my children as good or in better condition than when I obtained it. And you saw that by all the grass waterways and tiling and stuff that I looked at. Now, someone would come along, especially on Mark's land, and destroy that beyond repair. Where could Mark get compensated? According to, let me see. according to what agricultural impact mitigation, that's totally insufficient. Completely. There'd have to be a series of stipulations to that. I couldn't sign anything like that. That would violate my Uncle John's will. How could I do that? That's illegal. It's not my property. It's mine to use. And another thing, I thought, especially on Mark's farm here, let me get that right. Where are we at? Okay, especially on Mark's farm, does someone have the right to change the flow of water? I brought the water going from this direction to this direction. This is lower ground. They crush this, the water moves back that way, just like you saw in this picture the year we had 50 inches of rain. The water's going to go backwards over here. Does Summit have the right to change the direction of the flow of the water that I've established on my farm? I don't know.
Are you concerned that they're asking the IUB for certain rights, including that post-construction you, landowner, can't change the elevations or contours of your land?
I'm concerned that the pipeline and my tiling won't mesh. For example, this goes at an angle. If it intersects those mains I have across the bottom, that's cutting all the tile at an angle. Are they going to fix that? They say they do, but what in the last 2.5 years, they've said a lot of things, in my opinion, were misleading. How are you going to fix a tile that's cut at an angle from one side of the farm to the other? I don't know.
Did you have any other documents that you wanted to make hearing exhibits, or have we gone through those?
No, thank you. I'm pleased that you listened.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I don't have anything further.
Ms. Gruenhagen?
Thank you. Mr. Schnack, I'm over your right shoulder.
How back there? Do you have enough documentation that you can see what I was trying to explain?
Mr. Schnakenberg, right there, not back there. That's next.
Oh, the Farm Bureau lady.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm pretty good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I just have a couple of follow-up questions. When you were speaking earlier with Chair Helen, you mentioned you had a farm tenant on these properties.
Yes.
Is that
I used to farm them, and I rented the land away 5 years ago or 4, something, to the neighbor boy. So this down here. This way this work. Okay, yeah,
Are they all rented to the same person?
yes. Well, that year that we had the 50 inches of rain, and I had to rearrange my active farming system, in essence, quit farming, I rented the rest of the land out to another tenant, no, 2 other tenants, and then I decided to converge on my neighbor, who I promised him some land when he was a little boy. So he rents my land.
Okay, very good. Did Summit ever ask you or your attorney whether or not you had a farm tenant?
No,
Because I did notice the Exhibit H's that have been filed do not include a farm tenant. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't paying attention. I was too mad about other things.
Understand. Do you cash lease that, flex lease? What kind of lease do you?
Cash.
Cash lease, okay. And on Mark's farm up here, you mentioned in the southeast corner that there's a permanent wetland there.
Yes,
Has that been designated as a wetland?
yes.
And which agency did that?
The soil people in Algona, Iowa, the NRCS or whatever.
The NRCS did.
Yeah, they designated that wetland. And that water comes down my drainage ditch, and that wetland oozes across the road into the Fish and Wildlife, and there's a permanent pond of water standing there.
Does your tenant, are you enrolled in the federal farm programs?
Yeah, he does all of that. Okay. I just got stuff in my CRP land.
And is it part of the requirements to stay enrolled in that? Are there any requirements regarding what you can't do with that wetland?
I can't do anything with it.
And what would happen if you did?
I could be prosecuted, fined.
Would NRCS or FSA penalize you?
Yes.
Would you, if that occurred, since the pipeline is going right through that, would you expect Summit to reimburse you and compensate you for any penalties that were assessed?
It would be nice, but I doubt if I could get anything out of Summit. Especially when you have a hostile landowner.
So the pipeline going through that wetland, is that a concern of yours then with regard to your farm program eligibility?
No, not the eligibility. It's just making a mess. I mean, I'm going there, it's just making a mess.
Understand. And just to be clear, the exhibit number on this, on Mark's farm here is KO-036.
You'd have to clarify me on that. Is that the right number?
That's, okay. I think they were switched on the labeling before, so I just wanted to make that clear for the record. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Collins?
Hello, Mr. Schnakenberg.
Schnakenberg. Hi. Do you have enough documents in front of you? Or so have we presented things enough so you can get a clear picture of my concerns?
Oh, yes, I think you've been very descriptive, and I think a lot of the questions from some of our lawyers have gotten your point across very well. I did have just a couple simple questions. Have you attempted to get insurance on your farms in case the pipeline goes through for liability?
No. I have Farm Bureau insurance, and I just presume the Farm Bureau insurance people like this Farm Bureau lady would make sure that my insurance would remain intact without a raise in premium. Now, I don't know that. I don't know that.
Okay. My second question is, are you very concerned, as your position as fiduciary, that these farms will be changed from an asset to a liability for your heirs?
Mark's farm would be a liability. A $1.6 million farm today, that pipeline goes through, it's an $800,000 farm. I mean, let's get real. There's an elephant standing in the room. This is what pipelines do to farms. I guess he could make a deal with the Fish and Wildlife people. They might love to have it.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Okay. Nope. Okay. No questions from the board. Mr. Schnakenberg, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's been nice getting to know you.
Come on back.
I hope we have a positive thing in the future.
All right, we are going to take a 15-minute break. We will come back at so we will come back shortly after 3:30 with Mr. Met. We're going to skip the order. So it'll be Mr. Met shortly after 1:30. Thank you.